Welcome back to the Life of Tash. I'm Tash, and today we have Adam on the show, who is an experienced kinkster and part of a sex-positive marriage to a professional dominatrix. Adam not only shares his passion in his private life, but he also expresses it through his kink business in photography. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Thanks for having me.
So, Adam, I just want to get people a bit of a sense of like who you are before we dig deep into the juicy stuff. But like, what makes you wake up every day? Like, what gets you going?
Great question. So coffee, definitely. PMA, which is positive mental attitude, and creativity. So I feel with like PMA, I've always been quite a positive person, seeing the best in things in every situation. It's a bit of a philosophy that I've lived by for a number of years. And it just helps me wake up and kind of get the day going. And just trying to be as creative as possible, whether that's through photography, kink, relationships, connections. Yeah.
Love that. When you're with your kink photography, how did that like become a business for you?
So I've always been into kink photography ever since a young age. I had like a Suicide Girls book and Burning Angels book, so I was really into that style of kind of kinky rather than boudoir photography. And being into like rock and metal and hardcore and punk, they kind of just go hand in hand. So with all the photography, it just flowed really well. I've been doing music photography for 20 years and kink photography for 7 or 8 years now. And then with my wife, Mistress Flirt Driver, her being a sex worker for 13 years plus, she's always been on the side of the camera being photographed. So she knows what looks good. She creatively directs all of our shoots. I photograph, she edits. And it just, with all of our clients, like coming into a safe space with a married couple, and letting just kind of going with creativity that we'll help with just really works for us, yeah.
What came first? Was you like being part of the kink community or the photography, and did like one influence the other?
Probably the photography came first, I think. Definitely you kind of meet people. It's something that I wanted to do and wanted to explore. So I definitely started shooting kind of models and couples, and then slowly getting more into the kink scene in Sydney. So I've shot a lot of models, couples, and I definitely say the photography came first.
And does it like give you any tips or tricks like when you started getting more into playing in kink, like from being inspired by people, or like did it influence the way you like looked at it, do you think?
Yeah, I think it did. I feel, when you do research on kind of shoots you want to do and kind of get inspo, there's definitely things I've seen like, oh, that could work in a play scene. So yeah, definitely.
Nice. So apart from the photography, like what was really your journey into your kink life?
Journey. So as I said, I met my wife at a party, a house party a number of years ago. I knew that she was a sex worker prior to that. And when we started a relationship, we laid everything on the table, how we wanted to do our relationship, what we wanted out of it. And it was just a natural thing that we were going to be non-monogamous. We were going to be kinky. And, sometimes we do that with each other. Sometimes we do that in play party settings. And sometimes we do that separately.
And in your like kink expression, I know that you are a dominant, but you also identify and switch sometimes to be submissive. Can I ask, like, how did that come about? Did you first identify as a dominant or a submissive? And, like, how did you become to play kind of both roles?
Okay, so originally I was always a dominant male. That was just kind of how I identified. But then I feel like being able to switch and be able to pass the baton to someone else is a really beautiful and super masculine thing. So I do that with my wife. I've had a handful of play sessions where I've kind of mixed it up a little bit, but just being able to submit is, in my eyes, super, super masculine. And just being able to like let go, you know? And also being a dominant male, I need to be able to know what implements are going to feel like for anyone I'm going to be playing with, so I can gauge how, for instance, you know, with impact, I need to know how something's going to feel, so I know that the potential pain that I'm going to be giving to someone else, how it's going to feel.
Yeah. Growing up, did you maybe feel that submission was more of a female role, and did that change through your relationship or your introduction into kink, or have you always felt comfortable exploring your submissive side? Because a lot of men find it, you know, it's an extremely vulnerable thing to do, and I think there's a lot of power and in vulnerability, but you know, in the culture of what a lot of men are brought up in, that they don't really put masculine and vulnerability in the same sentence.
I think it's very true. You know, before I probably did, I would do it behind closed doors, but now I'm not afraid to say that I like to do it, and it is really nice. But you're right, there is a lot of kind of common misconception that it is a feminine thing when it 100% isn't.
I think it's funny, like when you're a professional dominatrix, and I'd say, you know, maybe 70 to 80% of my clients are males. So for me, I really relate submission probably more to men than anything. And then you kind of look at the holistic view of society, and it's probably flipped a bit the other way around, where most people probably look at it more of a female thing. You say that you mainly, I think, switch with your wife. Is there a reason around that? Is it just because it's more of a safe space for you, or like what is the conditions, I guess, for you to switch?
I think, yeah, it's a bit more of a safe space. I know and trust her, but I'm definitely open to new play partners. If that's something they want to explore, then I'm definitely open to doing it with the right people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exploring that sub-side, as we said, like it's very important. I think it's really important for all dominants to know what they're doing. You know, like if you're going to be flogging someone, you got to know what the flogger feels like. If you're going to be, you know, dripping candle wax on someone, you should know what it feels like. So I always think, one, like people should practice, but you should also know what you're inflicting on someone else. So has there been any other aspects apart from just, you know, kind of knowing what things are feeling like, or, you know, how heavy something's going to hit someone, that has helped your dominant side from being submissive? Like, how has it maybe enhanced your ability to be dominant?
I think it's definitely enhanced it because it helps me see it from a different point of view. With any sort of play, you know, there's going to be, any sort of play that I engage in, there's a kind of DS dynamic around it. So just being able to put myself in the other person's shoes is good for me, yeah.
And I think, like, as we were talking about being submissive and allowing yourself to be vulnerable, I think there are a lot of dominants who practice being dominant in a DS dynamic or relationship, but they actually haven't explored that vulnerability themselves. And so I think being able to feel that vulnerability for yourself gives you a lot more empathy for the vulnerability of the people when they are being submissive to you.
Absolutely, yeah.
You mentioned that you're in a non-monogamous marriage. How did you kind of journey into non-monogamy?
So when me and my wife had our kind of conversation about how we wanted to expand our relationship, you know, we were dating for a number of months, and we kind of just sat down and spoke for a whole night about how we want our relationship to go. We spoke about kids, we spoke about houses, we spoke about kink lifestyles, and essentially it's like honesty is the best policy. We laid all of our cards on the table, and everything aligned so well that we knew that we were meant to be together. So it was just a lot of communication and a lot of honesty.
Was one of you kind of like more into it or maybe more experienced than the other one, or were you just literally both on the same page?
Literally both on the same page.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saying that, like, were you non-monogamous before
So I trialed at some open relationships when I was younger, and they kind of broke down due to bad honesty, not being kind of trustworthy on both sides. I was, before I met my wife, I was, as a lot of people are, using dating apps, and I didn't really have the language behind non-monogamy, so I was dating quite a number of people, but me and my wife are so open about it, it just flows perfectly.
And I think, with non-monogamy, I always say the beauty of it, but sometimes the difficulty of it, is that we are writing our own rules. We're not brought up and shown, well, at least I wasn't brought up and shown, a successful non-monogamous relationship that was functioning at the time where I could learn concepts from. So I think when a lot of people are like starting to date in the non-monogamous world or trying to explore it themselves, what relationship type fits them, you do kind of have to stumble your way through it. And I certainly, for a few years, stumbled my way through it, longer than a few years, until I really found someone that kind of matched what I was really looking for. And it sounds like you got that with your wife too. But has there been, because you've done probably a lot of your exploring and maybe your experience with your wife, did you guys have to kind of struggle through to find your kind of perfect, ethical, non-monogamous situation? What was the learning curve like?
So with every relationship dynamic, there's gonna be struggles. There's gonna be hurdles to overcome. But for us, we learnt fast that if something needed to be spoken about, we'd speak about it there and then. Before, when we first started, we would kind of think, oh, we'll leave it for 24 hours. And if it's still upsetting us 24 hours on, then we'll have a conversation. That doesn't work for us. If something bugs us or we need to have a discussion, we have it there and then. And it goes back to just being so open, so honest. And, we're not going to be annoyed or upset with each other for bringing something up. Just open and honest policy, yeah.
I like that 24-hour rules. I use that with shopping. If I'm still thinking about something 24 hours later, I'm like, I have to have it. But if I haven't thought about it again, I'm like, oh, then it wasn't meant to be.
Very smart.
But it's a good rule. Don't let things bother you for too long.
Yeah.
And I think because you can then really brew over something.
It can brew inside, yeah.
And then it gets worse.
Exactly.
You live, obviously, non-normative style marriage. Obviously, in our world, for me, it's pretty normative, but for a lot of people, it isn't. Have you experienced any, negativity from people that maybe in your family or your friend circle, through living this lifestyle?
We've no family stuff because obviously we're British. We live in Australia. They don't need to know. Most of our friends, 75% of our friends are in the scene, in the kink scene, in the E&M world. But we have had funny situations where we've told friends who aren't in the scene that, hey, just a heads up, you may see us with another person, we're open. Some people are like, hell yeah, that's amazing. Some people think we're trying to get them into play, which is not the case.
I get that.
Luckily not. Like I said, a lot of the people we hang out with are friends in the community, so yeah.
And also I wanted to ask, and I mean, I'm in a similar position myself where I'm married, but why get married? I get that sometimes, if you're going to be non-monogamous or live an alternative view of what the traditional norm of what a marriage is, what was your reason for getting married?
To throw one hell of a party. So yeah, we had a couple of weddings actually. One was in Las Vegas, which was great, and then the other few. But the other one I want to bring up is we threw a 2-day festival wedding where we got hand-fastened in Glastonbury in the UK. So apart from throwing a big party for 150 close friends and family, it was just a celebration of us. I love the heck out of my wife, and I want people to know that.
I love that. Your dynamic as like a sex positive, obviously married couple. What has that kind of given you to your relationship and the way that you live that you don't think you would have maybe experienced in a normal kind of more traditional relationship?
I suppose we've got a ton of really good dinner party stories.
Most important.
Yeah.
And also, like as you mentioned, your partner is a professional dominatrix, and she's been a sex worker since you knew of her. What has been your experience of that? Like, has there been any struggles for you that you had to approach through it maybe in the early days? Like, what's it been like for you as the partner?
Well, I think I met my wife when she was a sex worker. So I knew that was her background. I knew that was her history. And that's ultimately who I fell in love with. And, she's been doing it for a number of years. It's for the sessions that she does, she doesn't go into detail, but she's elated afterwards. She helps people through past traumas in a safe space, able to, act out some of their deepest, darkest fantasies. So it's beautiful to see how happy she is after a session. Yeah.
Nice. Has there been any situations where there has been problems arriving from her work, or have you always kind of been okay with it?
I've always been okay with it. Yeah, I knew what I was getting into from the get-go. So, luckily, no issues whatsoever.
I love that because I think sometimes people get into things, and I especially found this with dating actually, when I would be like, oh, I'm a non-monogamous, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, yeah, that's cool. And then like 3-4 months later, like then the problems come up. So it's nice to hear that someone like they knew what they were getting into and like they stuck with that. Like I accept it, I'm cool with it. Which I think if you're dating anyone who works in the sex-related industry, you kind of have to be.
Yeah, exactly, for sure.
How did you like establish boundaries in your non-monogamous marriage? Like what are the boundaries for you guys? And like how do you deal with maybe kind of any edges that you play with them?
So we've got 1 or 2 boundaries that we live by, but essentially we trust each other enough that if we want to make a decision during a scene and we just need to think, would my wife, would my husband be okay with this choice? So we trust each other's judgment, and we trust each other's judgment a lot.
Nice. How do you guys keep balance in your relationship, particularly if you guys are, dating people separately? Like, how do you make sure that there's balance and that you guys are kind of okay all the time?
A crazy Google Calendar. Yeah, so we've got a Google Calendar for both our work schedules, both our side hustle schedules, both our solo date sessions and group play sessions. So yeah, it's a crazy Google Calendar, but it works for us. Like we're hyper focused and organized when it comes to stuff like that. There has to be leniency. So if my wife is using the dungeon, I know that I can't have a date that evening or that daytime, and it's just keeping on top of that. And also, we use Flow to track her cycle. So we just. Yeah, we use that in a smart way.
That's good. I like the organization aspect you're bringing to it. Like I'm massive on organization as a former like program manager, so I love that. Do you guys put in like dedicated time for each activity, or you just kind of like schedule it in as it comes up? I plan quite ahead. So, I mean, I've got play sessions booked in for, 6-8 weeks away. So a lot of the people that I play with, they've got schedules as well. It's like calendar Jenga. So yeah, for sure. I remember once we were seeing another couple who were also both co-parents, and I'm a co-parent. So there was 3 co-parent schedules that we were trying to coordinate. It was incredible.
It's hard sometimes, right?
How do you really support each other as not just a couple in your marriage, but also as individuals and exploring your own like desires and fantasies that you might be exploring with someone else?
So we do a lot of play separately. You know, there's a lot of things that I'm into that she's not into, and vice versa. So we just help kind of support that. If, you know, one week she might be really wanting to do X, however I can support that, I will, and vice versa. So yeah, we just try and give each other a push for if we need it. We also kind of take it in turns leading the relationship. Obviously, her being a dom, she's an extremely dominant person, and so am I. So you'd think we would butt heads, but no, we just take a step back. You know, I might have a day where I've worked really hard the week before and I just need a chill day. So she'll take the reins that day or that week and then flip it, and I might take the reins the following.
Oh, yeah, it's actually a really smart way of doing it, is like not just switching in your scenes, but it's like also switching in your lifestyles.
Absolutely.
I wanted to talk about, I know that you are sober, and that you obviously therefore play sober. How did that come about, like going into sobriety, and like has it changed the way you play?
Yeah, look, I mean, I lived in a pub for about 10 years. My parents owned a pub, so I had alcohol in my life for a long time. Me and my wife gave up drinking just over 2 years ago. We both did it together. We did it as a team. And, you know, it was one of the best decisions we've, you know, ever made. It's nice to be able to be in a play scene, a play party, and know that whatever decision we're making, we've got our heart and our brain fully in for it. So I don't like playing with people who are intoxicated. That's kind of a clear rule with any solo play sessions. If it's a party atmosphere, it's a little bit more lenient, as long as they're not completely tanked. Like, so yeah, essentially, yeah, I'm straight edge. I don't do drugs. I don't drink alcohol. And it works really well for us to just be more creative as well.
What led you guys to, well, one, individually deciding it, but then also deciding it as a couple?
I think we partied enough in our 20s.
Out-partied?
Yeah, I think we out-partied ourselves. And it was just something we wanted to do. We wanted to be more creative. We wanted to do more things. And since giving up, we are way more creative. We actually do way more social things. And it just, I mean, hangovers suck. So it's nice to wake up and know exactly what you did the night before and be happy about the decisions you made.
And I guess it probably also has very positive impacts on, as you said, like when you're allowed in your relationship to make in the moment decisions, that you can't blame a decision because, oh, I was fucked up.
Exactly, yeah.
So you probably prevent a lot of problems just by having like sobriety in your lives.
100%. We absolutely love it.
Have you ever felt that in the kink scene that it's been problematic for you, or like there's any backlash? Because, you know, some kink parties can get quite, how should we say, high level. Like, have you noticed any like difference from before when you were kind of participating in that aspect of it to now?
Honestly, no. Like a lot of the people that we know actually don't drink as well, or they might have like a drink prior to going to a party and then they won't drink for the party. So yeah, not at all, actually. A lot of support. And, you know, we've had friends who usually drink, and when they're hanging out with us as a couple, they choose not to. So it's really nice, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on the show today and chatting with us about all things kink and non-monogamy. It's been very eye-opening. And to everyone at home, as always, stay kinky.